All right, hey Algebra 2. We are going to be doing the next lesson, which is Chapter 7, Lesson 4. It's about properties of logarithms. And there are three main properties of logarithms that we're going to talk about today. But before we get started on that, we are going to look at what we did last week real quick, just to give us a little refresh. So last week we were evaluating logarithms. So this was in 7.3. Okay, so they were giving us something like where it said evaluate, and then they gave us something like log base 2 of 8. And when we found log base 2 of 8, we were thinking, okay, what does that equal? I don't know what that equals, so I put an x. And then I changed it to an exponential with an exponent. So I did 2 to the x power equals 8. And then I could use that little paper with the exponents on it to figure out 2 to what power makes 8. And if you look at the paper, 2 to the third power makes 8. So 2 cubed is 8, so this equals 3. Another one that we did last week. Let's see if I can find one that I want to do. How about log base 25 of 125? So this one, I didn't know what it equaled, so I put x, and then I say 25 to some power equals 125. And then you looked across the rows on that paper, and you were looking for a row that had a 25 and a 125 in it, and you would have found those in the 5s. And we know that 5 to the second power makes 25, so I would change this to a 5 to the 2x, because that's 25x. And then 125 is 5 to the third power, so we would change that to 5 to the third power. Now, once they have the same base, so like once they both have 5s on there, now they drop off and the exponents are equal. So 2x equals 3, divide by 2, and x was 3 halves. You can make that 1.5, whatever you're fancy. And then if you wanted to check them on your calculator, all you had to do was type this part right here, okay? 25 to the 1.5 power. And you see that it's 125, which is what it should be. All right, so let's talk about our properties for today. So like I said, there are three properties. The first property is the product property. And the product property says that if you have log base b, so that base could be any number of something that is m times n, you can separate that to be log base b of m plus log base b of n. That if this is multiplication right here, m times n, you can separate them to be log base b of m plus log base b of n. And these are something that you're just going to have to know. And I would probably be taking some notes because we will take a quiz over the lesson that we just learned. And this one, I'm hoping Thursday. We'll see. Maybe push it back to next Tuesday, but there's still one more lesson that we need to push in here. So we'll have to kind of play it by ear. All right, so that is the first property. The second property is the quotient property. And the quotient property is similar to the product property, except that if you have log base b of m divided by n, then you could separate that to be log base b of m minus log base b of n. Does anybody think these properties look familiar? Exponent properties. Dividing same base. What did you do when you divided same base with exponent properties? With the exponent rules? You subtracted. Logs are the inverses of exponents. So when you go to have a logarithmic property, it will be similar. So m divided by n will separate to be m minus n. And when you did exponent properties, Okay, when you do the exponent rules, when you were multiplying same base, what did you do with the exponents? You added them. So that's why the product property says that if you have m times n, you can separate it to be log base b of m plus log base b of n. All right, our third and final property, okay, will be the power property, okay? And the power property says that if you have log base b of m to the n power, then you can take this n power and drop it to the front to make that n times log base b of m. Okay, so that ends up dropping to the front and it becomes a number times that log. All right, so some of the problems that we're going to do now are just to familiarize ourselves with the properties, okay? So hopefully you were able to jot those down. Remember, you can always rewind and pause. Okay, so let's look at the directions here. It says, write as a single log. Okay, so a single log means that you are going to put them back together. So if the logarithm that they give you is addition, you're going to put it back together with multiplication. If it's subtraction, you're going to put it back together with division. And if it has a number out front, you're going to move it back up as an exponent. So you'll just use those three properties, okay? All right, so the first one that we're going to look at is log base 2 of 5 plus log base 2 of 10. All right, so addition. Look back at your three properties. When you look at your properties, the one with addition is the product property. So you're going to put these back together with multiplication. And what I'm going to multiply are these two numbers right here. The base is going to stay the same. So it's going to stay log base 2. And then when you put these back together, you're putting them back together with multiplication because this is the product property. 5 times 10 is 50. And that would be all that you can do here. Sometimes you may want to take it a little bit farther, but 2 to no power makes 50. So I can't simplify that. All right, let's do another one. Log base 7 of x minus log base 7 of 2. And I did forget to tell you all, if they're not same base logs, then you can't put them together. So like if this was base 7 and this was base 5, you couldn't put them together. All right, so this is subtraction. So this is the quotient property. The quotient property says that you put subtraction together as division. So whatever comes first goes on top. So this will become, and I'm just only going to put these together, log base 7 of x divided by 2. And that would be it. That's a single log because the log word is only written once. All right. Log base 4 of 5x plus log base 4 of 3x. All right, so this is addition. And when it's addition, it's the product property. So I put this back together with multiplication. So this will become log base 4 and then 5x times 3x. 5 times 3, 15. X times x, x squared. And that would be it. All right, let's do one more here. So 2 log base 5 of x minus 3 log base 5 of y. All right, this one has two properties in it. There is a number out front, and then there is subtraction, okay? The number out front is the power property, and the power property says that this was an exponent. So I'm going to move this back up, and I'm going to move this back up. So this would become log base 5 of x to the second power minus log base 5 of y to the third power. And then I still need to put these together because of the subtraction. And the subtraction would go back together with the quotient property. So this would become log base 5 of x squared divided by y cubed. And that would be it. All right, we're going to go backwards now. They're going to give us this, and they're going to want this. All right, so this directions will say write as an expanded log. So expanded means that you're pulling it apart. You're making it bigger. All right, so let's look at log base 3 of 4x divided by y. All right, so right now, the main thing that's jumping out at you should be that division. So the quotient property. And the quotient property says that you separate with subtraction. So I'm going to separate the 4x and the y with subtraction. So I'm going to make this be log base 3 of 4x minus log base 3 of y. So that separated that division right there. Do you see any other properties? If you don't, you're done. But if there is another property, you need to separate that as well. I do see another property right here. 4x. That means 4 times x, which means that's the product property. So I'm going to have to separate that to be log base 3 of 4 plus log base 3 of x minus log base 3 of y. And every year I have kids and they're like, how the heck would I even put that back together if they gave me this and wanted this? Well, you work it from left to right. Just like order of operations, you would do exponents first if you had any. Then you would put together multiplication and division from left to right. Okay? So that's that rule of thumb to follow if you do have to put it back together and it's a whole big mess of stuff. All right, let's look at another one. Let's do log base 4 of 9x cubed. All right, so first thing, looks like a little fuzzy right there. Okay, first thing that should be jumping out at you is those logs, okay? So the log of the 9x cubed I meant. Okay, so I need to separate that. That's 9 times x cubed. So I would separate it with addition. So this would become log base 4 of 9 plus log base 4 of x cubed. Do you have any other properties? This exponent right there needs to drop out front of the log that it's on. So this would be log base 4 of 9 plus 3 log base 4 of x. And there's no other multiplication or division going on there, so that would be it. Does that look fuzzy to you all, or does that look okay? I think once I get closer, it looks okay. All right, let's see. Okay, last thing for the day is something called change of base formula. Change of base formula is something that you can use to evaluate a logarithm quicker. The skill that we were using on Thursday, where we had to rewrite them as the same base, and then we set the exponents equal to solve for x, the same thing we did at the beginning of the video today. There is a quicker way to do that, and it's called the change of base formula. Now, I don't like to show that first because the next lesson that we're going to get into, you have to know how to rewrite them as the same base sometimes. So I wanted that skill to kind of, be learned before we do the little skip, okay? So let's talk about change of base formula. The change of base formula says that if you have log, let's see what they use, base b of m, you can evaluate that, okay? You can evaluate by using log of m divided by log of b. And you just type it in your calculator, okay? So that's why it's important to have a calculator with a log button. A lot of kids, this is something that you would not get on iStep. You would not get on tests in my classroom if we were actually at school. And a lot of people have trouble remembering, where it goes, where it goes. T.I. has a song that says, I like my bass down low, down low, down low. You can Google it if you don't believe me. But I like my bass down low, down low, down low. So when you were evaluating one of these, you make sure you divide by the base. So if I was to evaluate one of these, let's do one that we would know, okay? Log base 3 of 9. You could figure this out quickly on your calculator by taking log of 9 and dividing it by log of 3. So on your calculator, you should find a log button, okay? This is right here if you have one of these. So log of 9, make sure you close the parenthesis, divide it by log of 3, make sure you close the parenthesis. Hit enter, and it's 2, because 3 to the second power is 9. So that's 2. All right. So the directions will say evaluate using change of base. If it was not a whole number, you may see it say round to the nearest hundredth place, so that would be 2 decimal places. So let's do 2 more of these, and then we're going to call it quits because we're hitting about 17 minutes here. All right, so let's do log base 81 of 27. So that means on my calculator, I would do log of 27, divide it by log of 81, because I like my base down low. So on your calculator, you would hit log 27, close the parenthesis, divide it by log of 81, close the parenthesis. And I got 0.75, 3/4. All right, last one. Let's do log base 4 of 7. That's an ugly 4. All right, so I'm going to do log of 7, divide it by log of 4. So log 7, close parenthesis, divide it by log 4, close parenthesis. And I got 1.40367, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to round just to 2 decimal places. So I make it 1.40, which is the same thing as 1.4. All right. If you got any questions, make sure you email me, whatever we need to do to get you going on this. And we'll do a lot more practice tomorrow, too. All right. See ya.